This weekend, the third film, the Pleasant Ant-Man trilogy, hit theaters, so I'm sure you're getting antsy to see me stop and rank all three Ant-Man films from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the Com-Ant section. Be sure to share your ranking of the Ant-Man films. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours, and let's get started. Coming in last place, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. As the kickoff to Phase 5, the anticipation for this film was through the roof, and it can't fully live up to that hype, but that was no small order. The biggest compliment I can give this film is that it feels like an important addition to the MCU. The other films in this franchise were intentionally kind of light-hearted little adventures that were kind of more like side quests than huge pieces of the MCU. And this movie, by truly giving us Kang and giving us a proper variant of Kang as the Conqueror, it feels like this big, important piece to what they're doing in this saga of the MCU. And the movie very much uses Jonathan Majors as an advantageous part of this film.
He will burn the world to find you. Who? The Conqueror.
Kang is written to be very merciless, dangerous, intense, but Jonathan Majors is able to bring some sympathy to this character that otherwise would be very harsh. So you get a character who is this threat to everyone around him, that has this big gigantic plan that ties into something bigger than himself, but through the performance, you're able to connect with him on this other level. And that's what I enjoyed most about this film, that it helped the MCU move forward and get some focus in an area where I don't feel like it's been focused for a couple of years now. But for me, it worked much better as a piece of the MCU than as an Ant-Man film itself, or as even kind of a movie in general, because this movie can't pick a tone. Kang is just this dead, serious character. No comedy, nothing really lighthearted about him, and he's in a movie where everything else is pretty corny and goofy. And that's what the Ant-Man movies have always been. But when you try to tell this story that's about this rebellion, about a conqueror, about genocide, and that's who your villain is, and he's side by side with MODOK, and this weird creature that keeps talking about holes, it feels like scene to scene, character to character, someone different is directing each piece of this movie. And in particular, when it comes to MODOK, it just gets weird. So it goes for this comic accurate portrayal of the character with the look by having this floating head and this robot thing. And I guess to its credit, that is what is in the comics, but that doesn't mean it translates properly to live action. Just because it looks good in a drawing doesn't mean when you take an actor's face and squish it into something that the human brain will accept it. And for me, it certainly did not accept MODOK in this film. It just looked weird. Felt like I was going cross-eyed every time I was looking at him. And he's just so goofy, so corny, side by side with a very serious villain. That was the frustrating thing here. There are things that really worked, that I enjoyed, that it was a big piece of the MCU, but on the whole, there are all these other things that just weren't all that great. So, while it does have some giant stakes in what it's doing for the MCU as a whole and establishing Kang, the movie itself, not marvelous. Our runner-up, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Coming off Infinity War, for a lot of people, this movie just came off as anticlimactic. Instead of upping the ante, they just cranked up the fun antics and told this independent story about Scott Lang and the Pyms trying to get a piece of technology. And that's what I liked about the movie. Not every MCU film needs to be swinging for the fences and be massive in scale. And the first two Ant-Man films were just that, kind of these small little adventures where groups of people are swarming on technology, we're going on little heists, and you're spending time with these fun characters. Evangeline Lilly finally gets to take on the mantle of the Wasp and packs a nice sting. Paul Rudd, sexiest man of the year, is effortlessly charming and amusing as ever. The gang of characters that kind of go along with him, once again, just steal every scene. In particular, Michael Pena with those little stories that he tells and the way that he tells them. Those are always so much fun. You get some other nice new characters thrown into the mix here, like Jimmy Woo, who gets this movie establishes and starts one of the best character arcs of the entire MCU.
How'd you do it, Scott? The card trick?
Sir.
Can you knock?
James E. Woo, FBI.
And just in general, I get why for some people, you know, it's not their favorite movie because it's just so small scale that it is just a little side quest over here. I get why that might not work for some people, but that's exactly what I find charming about it. That's exactly why it's appealing to me. That it's unassuming, it's not demanding, it's just a little diversion. It's intentionally lighthearted in nature. The villain is somewhat intentionally forgettable. That he's not the center point of having this big scheme that has to be stopped. You just have this guy that's evil arms dealer. You have Ghost, who has personal reasons to be trying to get it. And you have our Pim Lang group, who also have their personal reasons for what they're trying to do here. There's not a big villain. And I think that's okay. Sometimes you just want a simple little consumable story. It's not trying to be brilliant, but it is a pleasant. But in first, the original Ant-Man, the MCU's heist movie. It's intentionally one of the most small-scale stories in the entire MCU, and it uses it to its advantage, frequently, literally. The movie works almost entirely because of its exuberant cast, led by Paul Rudd, the superhero I never knew that I wanted or needed. And that's exactly why he works so well as Scott Lang. Much like Paul Rudd is someone that you would never immediately think, that guy, superhero right there. Same with Scott Lang. You're always underestimating him. He's not the guy that you would think would be the superhero. He's not looking to be a superhero. He just gets pulled into that world. And because of that, Paul Rudd becomes like the perfect choice for that type of character. And he brings such a lighthearted energy, an innocent vibe to the character that is so different from almost all of our other heroes within the MCU. So he's just a great addition to the mix. Likewise, when you bring in someone like Michael Douglas, like this Hollywood legend, and you put him in one of these movies, it's just fun. Where he's doing something where he's playing a cranky old man, but he gets to tell jokes, and there's a history there, there's a backstory. This kind of makes for just like, when you that's what one of the things that's so crazy about the MCU, that they're able to get these elegant legacy actors and put them in these parts that just elevate smaller roles and make them much more compelling than they would probably otherwise be. Along those same lines, this is where the MCU is able to do something really smart, where it very much follows the MCU formula, the vibe, the tone, but it stands out because it is a heist movie. It finds something just different enough to do by making it about this thief using this specific tech to go steal something that is new and different while being familiar. That's the right way to grow and change slowly in a progressive fashion. You have the familiar with the new all kind of intertwined at the same time. And it's also a movie about family, Whether you're talking about the Pym family, Hope and Hank, or of course with Scott and Cassie, you just have a lot of family dynamics, so it feels personal. It feels relatable because of all of that.
Ants. Ants. Ant-Man.
Now, the specific plot itself might not be fantastic. The plot itself is a bit derivative of the original Iron Man. The stakes aren't giant, but it's not trying to be. That's not what it's about. It's not aiming to be the most fancy film in the MCU. But it is one of the more personal films, and it has something unique to offer by being a heist movie about families with just a really fun group of characters that you want to spend time with, whether the side characters like Michael Pena or, of course, Paul Rudd, who is just so fun and charismatic and a pleasant, permanent addition to the MCU. So the first movie in the franchise, I would still say, is the best. So it comes in at number 1. If you're up for the challenge, rewatch this video and count all of the ant puns in there. I want to know how many was I able to squeeze into this video. If you enjoyed this video, I got a bunch of other MCU rankings videos, all that fun stuff right over there. Thank you so much for watching. Keep talking movies and TV to